I'm all about building a wardrobe that's functional and timeless. And I really believe that if you select the right pieces and care for them properly, you can really extend the life of your wardrobe and save a lot of money in the process. Besides, caring for what we already have is simply a lot more sustainable than constantly buying new pieces, whether it is financially, emotionally, or environmentally. Today, I'll be sharing some tips on how to care for your clothes properly, and I'll be dividing this video into 4 sections, including washing, drying, storage, and maintenance. First of all, let's talk about washing your clothes properly. One of the biggest reasons that clothes wear out quickly is improper washing. Here are some tips to keep in mind. Number 1 is to read the care labels. In fact, I always read the care label before purchasing a piece of clothing because I want to make sure that I can care for it before I bring it home. Care labels tell you important information like the ideal water temperature, the washing method, and whether if the item can be tumble dried. Needless to say, ignoring these important instructions can lead to fading, shrinking, and damage. Tip number 2 is to wash less frequently. Believe it or not, you don't need to wash your clothes after every single wear. In fact, items like jeans, sweaters, and outerwear can often be worn multiple times before they need a wash. Fun fact, the Levi's CEO actually recommended that you never ever wash a pair of jeans. I personally don't think we need to go to that kind of extreme, but it is a wake-up call that we don't need to throw everything into the washing machine on autopilot. I wash my jeans about every 2 months or so if I wear them consistently. I also wash my cashmere pieces about once or twice a year, and I dry clean my parka jacket and other outerwear pieces about once a year, usually in the springtime. Washing too often can cause the fabric to wear out very quickly, so make sure you only wash when necessary. Tip number 3 on washing is to use cold water. Whenever possible, use lukewarm or cold water for washing. If you're using the washing machine, you will notice that a lot of everyday clothing recommend a maximum water temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. So make sure you don't go higher than what's recommended because hot water can be very harsh on the fabrics, causing them to fade and shrink over time. Tip number 4 on washing is to turn your pieces inside out. Whether if you are hand washing or using the washing machine, it's always a good idea to turn your pieces inside out. This very simple step is so important in preventing friction, which can cause issues like peeling and wear on the fabric surface. Before I move on to the drying section of this video, I want to touch on how to wash your delicate pieces. Now, delicate elements like silk and cashmere do require special care, but for me, the effort is absolutely worth it because these elements are so comfy and luxurious on the skin. I wear my cashmere a lot, so I always pay more attention to caring for them properly. So how do you care for your delicate elements? The first rule of thumb is to hand wash whenever possible. Fill a basin with lukewarm water and add a small amount of gentle detergent. There are many options available, but I personally love using this one from Steamery. Then gently swirl the garment around and let it rest for a few minutes before rinsing it in cool water. Repeat the rinse several times to make sure there's no detergent residue left on the garment. To get rid of excess water, squeeze and press the fabric gently. You should never wring your silk or garment like what you would do with a piece of towel because this will stretch out the fabric and distort the shape of your garment. Now, if you prefer to machine wash your delicate pieces, make sure to put them in a mesh laundry bag. This allows the water and detergent to pass through while protecting your garments from snagging or stretching. We are now on to the second section on how to care for your pieces properly. And this one is all about drying. Now, how you dry your clothes can make a massive difference in how long they last. My first recommendation is to skip the dryer. You see, the heat from a dryer can be too intense for a lot of our wardrobe elements, such as blouses, dresses, and even cotton t-shirts. In fact, my sister used to live in a very small apartment, so it was quite tricky to find a space to dry her clothes. So for a year, she had to use the tumble dryer, and I'm not kidding, she had to replace almost everything in her closet because all her pieces either shrank or lost their shapes. This is why I air dry everything. In fact, our dryer is now sitting in our garage. Anyway, air drying is the most gentle method for drying your clothes. And let's be honest, the cheapest as well. Now, I understand that it takes longer and you might need to be more organized with your laundry schedule, but in the long run, it will be worth it. For most part of the year, I do my drying indoor because the weather in the UK is always quite gloomy and rainy. So to speed up the drying, I always make sure to turn on the dehumidifier. For most pieces, like t-shirts and jeans, it's perfectly okay to hang them up on your typical drying rack. But if you're drying your delicate pieces, like silk and cashmere, you want to avoid hanging them up because it will stretch the fabric. Instead, you should lay them flat on a clean towel. You can then roll up the towel to squeeze out excess water and then leave the garment laying flat to dry. It's also important to keep your pieces away from direct sunlight while they're drying to prevent color fading. Now, a towel on a flat surface does work quite well, but I personally love using this drying rack because my cashmere dries so much quicker. As you can see, the mesh provides a perfectly flat drying surface, but it also allows better air circulation and therefore faster drying. I highly recommend it. Section 3 is about the proper storage for your pieces to make them last longer. And here are some tips to keep your wardrobe in top shape. First of all, if you have any cashmere or knitwear, you want to make sure to keep them nicely folded in the drawer rather than hanging them. This is because hanging these elements can stretch out the fabrics over time, especially around the shoulders. I feel like this is especially applicable to those very chunky sweaters because the weight of these pieces can really pull down the garments, which means the distortion can happen very quickly. The second tip on storage is to use some cedarwood balls to keep moths away. Now, if you have any cotton, silk, or cashmere pieces in your wardrobe, it's a good idea to get some cedarwood balls. This is because moths feed on all kinds of natural fibers, so you really don't want them to go anywhere near your closet. Well, luckily, cedarwood is fairly affordable and very effective in keeping moths away. Typically, I like to leave about 7 to 8 cedarwood balls in a little pouch in each drawer. Bear in mind the cedarwood scent will fade over time, so every 6 months or so, I will add a few drops of cedarwood oil onto the balls to make sure they are still doing their jobs. Tip number 3 on storage is about storing those out-of-season pieces. Now, I know some people like to use plastic boxes for storage, but they are actually not ideal for silk and cashmere pieces. This is because these kind of fabrics need to be able to breathe, and so if you put them in a plastic box, the moisture will be trapped in. This means over time, these pieces will start to have odor, staining, mold, and mildew. I personally don't keep anything in storage. What I have in my closet is pretty much everything I use for all 4 seasons. But in the summer, when I don't wear my cashmere a lot, I'll keep them in the cotton pillowcase. In the colder seasons, I'll just leave the pillowcases as a cover on top of my cashmere. However, if you do need to keep your pieces in storage, there are now some storage boxes that are made of breathable linen and cotton on the market. Tip number 4 on storage is to avoid direct sunlight. Prolonged exposure to sunlight can weaken the fabric of your pieces and also cause color fading. Now, if you have a closed wardrobe, this shouldn't be an issue for you, but I personally have an open wardrobe. I love it, but at the same time, I'm also quite conscious about sun exposure. This is why every time I leave the room, I always make sure to close the curtain. Tip number 5 on storage is to iron and steam your pieces before returning them back to your closet. This will ensure that your pieces are stored in the most favorable condition, plus your wardrobe will also look a lot more organized and appealing. We are now on to the last section on how to care for your clothes properly. And this one is all about maintenance. It goes without saying, we should check our clothes for signs of wear on a regular basis and look out for things like fraying seams, worn out hems, and peeling. Address these issues as soon as possible to keep your clothes in a good condition for longer. For example, if you notice a button coming loose or a small hole forming, take some time to fix it right away. These small repairs are easy to do and can prevent further damage that might make the garment unwearable. But if you're not too sure about how to fix it yourself, consider sending it to a tailor. Another maintenance I like to spend some time on is taking care of the peeling on my cashmere pieces. Now, peeling is a very normal wear and tear feature on any cashmere, especially on areas that experience more friction, such as the shoulder and the hip areas. Now, even though peeling is not really indicative of the cashmere quality, it can make your cashmere look a little tired. So I recommend taking care of the peeling with a very gentle fabric shaver. This simple routine never fails to bring my cashmere back to life. Typically, I only have to do this once every 2 years or so, and that is for my most worn cashmere sweaters. So to be honest, the aftercare is really quite manageable. So those are some very simple but effective tips to make your clothes last longer. By taking the time to care for your wardrobe, you will save money and also keep your favorite pieces lasting longer. I hope this video is helpful. Thank you so much for being here. Take care and I'll see you soon.